You can't approach the gate, sir.
Is there a problem, officer?
Where did you get that? That uniform is fake. You got ID?
I am a Navy SEAL. I'm boarding a military charter. Yes, I have ID, but what am I being detained
Hands
for?
where I can see them. Don't argue with me. Show me your hands now.
Officer Alan Bowles had been with the San Diego Airport Police for 7 years when he stopped a man at Terminal 2, Gate 42, a stop that would destroy his life and sent him to federal prison for 12 years. He was 31 years old, experienced enough to know better, arrogant enough to believe his instincts were infallible. On a Tuesday morning at San Diego International Airport, he saw a black man in a Navy uniform waiting at a military chartered departure gate and decided it had to be fake. The man was Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, a decorated Navy SEAL with 14 years of service, multiple combat deployments, and medals for extraordinary heroism. What Bowles did next, ignoring Hatfield's credentials, dismissing his military ID, and arresting a war hero in full-dress uniform on the morning of his deployment to the Persian Gulf, would trigger a Pentagon investigation, federal charges, and a trial that exposed 7 years of documented racial profiling. If you think officers who are meant to protect us shouldn't be the ones hunting us because of skin color, hit the subscribe button now so that more people get to see these stories. Also, like this video and share for others to be aware that these things actually happen and our voices cannot be silenced. Bowles' record told a story San Diego Airport Authority had ignored for nearly a decade. 11 complaints over 7 years. 11! Every single one involved people of color. Every single one followed the same pattern. A black family waiting in the International Departure Lounge at Terminal 2. Bowles demanded to see their passports without cause, threatened citations when they questioned his authority. A Hispanic teenager traveling alone to visit relatives, detained for 35 minutes near the baggage carousel, backpack searched without consent. A South Asian software engineer photographing the terminal architecture, questioned about terrorism and surveillance activity. A black college athlete in a team tracksuit passing through security, pulled aside for carrying too much cash, no contraband found. The complaints were documented, the pattern was obvious, but the San Diego Airport Authority treated each incident in isolation, never connecting them into what they clearly formed. An officer who saw people of color in spaces where his biased mind said they didn't belong. Supervisors noted in Bowles' valuations that he was results-oriented but sometimes overzealous in passenger interactions, that he could benefit from additional de-escalation training, that he should work on cultural sensitivity. But those notes never became consequences. 2 complaints resulted in written reprimands filed away and forgotten. 4 triggered mandatory retraining sessions Bowles attended but never internalized. 5 were closed with insufficient evidence despite witness statements. 0 resulted in suspension, demotion, or termination. So Bowles kept patrolling, kept stopping, kept assuming, and the airport authority kept ignoring the pattern. Until the morning Bowles targeted someone who couldn't be dismissed, someone whose credentials came with Pentagon backing, someone whose arrest would finally force accountability. Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield was 36 years old when Officer Bowles decided his Navy uniform must be fake. Hatfield had been a Navy SEAL for 14 years. 14 years of service most people can't comprehend. He joined the Navy at 22, driven to escape a cycle of limited opportunity that had swallowed too many people he loved. Basic training at Great Lakes, then BUDS, basic underwater demolition SEAL training, where 80% of candidates quit. Hatfield didn't quit. 6 months of hell, cold water immersions, endless physical torture, sleep deprivation designed to break you. He graduated, earned his trident, the gold pin SEALs wear with pride. Then the real work began. First deployment to Iraq in 2010, Ramadi. Clearing buildings, hunting high-value targets, watching teammates take fire. Second deployment to Afghanistan, Helmand Province. 9 months in the mountains,
ambushes, IEDs, missions classified even now. Third deployment back to Iraq, Mosul, the fight against ISIS. Operations so intense, Hatfield still woke up gasping. Syria, Yemen, Somalia, places the American public never heard about, missions that never made the news. In 2017, during an operation in northern Syria, Hatfield's team was ambushed. 8 SEALs pinned down by heavy machine gun fire, RPGs exploding, teammates wounded. Hatfield, already hit by shrapnel, his side bleeding, ran into the kill zone 3 times, dragging wounded operators to safety. He held a position alone for 14 minutes while the team evacuated, taking fire from 3 directions, returning fire until his ammunition ran out. All 8 teammates survived. Hatfield earned the Navy Cross, the second highest military decoration for valor, just below the Medal of Honor. The citation described extraordinary heroism under fire and complete disregard for personal safety. He also earned the Purple Heart for his wounds and the Bronze Star with V device for valor in a separate operation. His chest held ribbons most civilians wouldn't recognize, but every service member respected. Combat Action Ribbon, Iraq Campaign Medal with 4 stars, Afghanistan Campaign Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, ribbons representing years of sacrifice.
That Tuesday morning in March, Hatfield was moving through San Diego International Airport in his Navy service dress blue uniform, the formal military attire worn for ceremonies, official functions, and military travel. He'd just come from a pre-deployment briefing at Naval Base Coronado, a classified mission overview for operations in the Persian Gulf region, specifically supporting anti-proliferation efforts near Iran. The briefing had been tense, technical, weighted with the reality of what lay ahead. He was headed to Gate 42 in Terminal 2, where a military charter would take him and 11 other special operators to Naval Air Station Bahrain. From there, the operational theater. He had a 90-minute window before the aircraft departed. He stopped at a terminal cafe for coffee. Black, no sugar. He hadn't slept well. He was thinking about his team, about the mission parameters, about how he'd been away from his daughter's birthday 3 years running. He wasn't thinking about the person watching him from across the concourse. Someone who saw his uniform, saw his skin, and decided something must be wrong. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these need to be shared, and your support helps us bring more truth to light. The call came in to the airport police dispatch at 7:34 a.m. Anonymous caller refusing to provide a name, calling from a cell phone later traced to the departure lounge near Gate 40. "Hi, I'm calling about a suspicious person near the coffee stand in Terminal 2. There's a black guy in what looks like a military costume. He's been just standing around near Gate 42. He looks out of place. I think he might be impersonating a service member or something. Can you send someone to check it out?" The dispatcher asked standard questions. Is the person doing anything threatening? Has he approached anyone? Is he carrying weapons? "No, but he just looks suspicious. The uniform looks fake. I don't think he's really military. He doesn't look like he should be wearing that." The dispatcher logged the call, suspicious person, possible stolen valor, and dispatched it. The call was assigned to Officer Alan Bowles, who was patrolling the terminal level nearby. Bowles responded immediately. This was exactly the kind of call that activated every bias in his pattern. A black man in a space where Bowles' assumptions said black men didn't belong, wearing something that seemed too legitimate, too accomplished, too authoritative for Bowles to accept as real. In Bowles' mind, the narrative was already written before he arrived. Black man in a military uniform at an airport early in the morning, probably homeless, probably running some kind of scam, probably bought the uniform online or at a thrift store. Stolen valor. Impersonating a service member. That's a federal crime. He's going to investigate, probably make an arrest. Another case closed. Bowles didn't consider that the uniform might be real. He didn't think about calling the base to verify. He didn't wonder why someone impersonating military would wear such an elaborate, expensive, perfectly tailored dress uniform with specific medals and ribbons in precise military order. He just saw a black man in a military uniform and decided it had to be fake.
His bias was so complete, so ingrained after 7 years of targeting people of color without consequences that evidence didn't matter. His assumptions overrode reality. He walked toward Gate 42 at 7:38 a.m., already approaching this as a criminal matter rather than a routine welfare check.
Hatfield was finishing his coffee, standing near the gate window watching a C-40 Clipper on the tarmac, when he saw the officer moving toward him with purpose. Officer Bowles was walking fast, eyes fixed, one hand near his duty belt. His posture was aggressive, confrontational, not the posture of someone doing a welfare check. Hatfield set down his coffee cup. He knew what was happening. He'd been here before, not exactly this situation, but close enough. Step away from the gate. Hands where I can see them, now. Hatfield raised his hands slowly, palms out, visible, non-threatening. His voice was calm, controlled, the tone of someone trained to de-escalate hostile situations. "Officer, I'm traveling on military orders. Is there a problem?" Bowles stopped 3 feet away, his eyes scanning Hatfield up and down, taking in the uniform, the medals, the insignia, and seeing none of it as real. "Military costume isn't a joke, pal. You need to take it off right now." Hatfield's heart sank. He'd served 14 years, deployed to combat zones most Americans couldn't locate on a map, earned medals for valor under fire, and he was being told his uniform was a costume? He recognized the tone, the assumption, the accusation. This wasn't about the uniform. This was about his skin. "Officer, this isn't a costume. I'm an active-duty Navy SEAL traveling to Bahrain on deployment orders. I have a military charter boarding in less than 90 minutes. Bowles' expression didn't change. "Sure you do. Stolen valor is a federal crime. You're impersonating a military officer." Hatfield felt the anger rise, but kept his voice steady. 14 years of training, of staying calm under pressure, of controlling his reactions when lives depended on it. "Sir, I'm not impersonating anyone. This is my uniform. I earned it. I can show you my military ID, my deployment orders, anything you need to verify." "I don't need to verify anything. I can see what's happening here." Bowles stepped closer, his voice harder. "You bought that uniform, slapped on some fake medals, and now you're walking around an airport pretending to be something you're not. It's disrespectful to real service members." Hatfield's jaw tightened. He'd lost friends in Syria and Afghanistan. He'd held dying teammates. He'd been wounded saving others, and this officer was standing here telling him he was disrespecting service members? Other travelers at the gate area were starting to notice. A man at the adjacent seating row slowed down, watching. A woman near the charging station stood up from her seat. "Should officers verify military credentials before accusing service members? Drop your answer below." Hatfield reached slowly into his jacket pocket, moving deliberately so Bowles wouldn't misinterpret the action. "Officer, I'm reaching for my military ID. It's in my inside pocket. I'm going to show you my credentials." "Keep your hands where I can see them." Bowles' hand moved closer to his weapon. Hatfield froze, then moved even slower, pulling out his military ID card, the common access card that every service member carries. He held it out. "This is my military ID. Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, United States Navy. My DoD ID number is right here. You can call Naval Base Coronado. You can call NCIS. You can verify everything." Bowles took the card, glanced at it for maybe 3 seconds, and handed it back. "Anyone can print a fake ID. They sell them online." Hatfield stared at him. The ID had holograms, security features, an embedded chip, the Department of Defense seal. It was as official as an ID could be. "This isn't fake. Look at the security features. Look at the hologram." This is a military common access card. It's impossible to convincingly fake. Looks fake to me. Hatfield pointed to his chest, to the rows of ribbons precisely aligned. These ribbons, these medals, they're in the correct order according to military regulations. The Navy Cross, Purple Heart, Bronze Star with V device. These represent specific awards. You can verify every one of them. Anyone can buy fake medals online. I've seen it before. Bowles' voice was flat.
dismissive. Hatfield's patience was wearing thin, but he kept trying. "Sir, I'm asking you to make one phone call. Call the Naval Special Warfare Command duty officer. Call NCIS. They can confirm my identity in 5 minutes. I'm not asking you to take my word. I'm asking you to verify through official channels." "I don't need to call anyone. I can tell what's real and what's fake." This was the moment where bias became impenetrable. Bowles had decided before he crossed the terminal that Hatfield was impersonating a service member. Every piece of evidence after that, the ID, the uniform, the medals, the calm demeanor, the deployment orders in his bag, was filtered through that initial assumption. He wasn't looking at a Navy SEAL. He was looking at a criminal trying to deceive him. The airport security cameras were recording everything from 3 angles, one above the gate entrance, one mounted by the charging stations, one at the cafe concourse. The footage would later show Hatfield standing calmly, hands visible, speaking in controlled tones. It would show Bowles aggressive, dismissive, refusing to examine the evidence. Other travelers were pulling out their phones now. A woman at gate 43 had her camera up recording. A businessman near the window was filming. Everyone could see what was happening. A black man in military uniform being accused of impersonating a service member despite presenting credentials. Hatfield tried one more time, reading the officer's nameplate. "Officer Bowles, I am Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield. I've served 14 years in the Navy, 10 as a SEAL. I have my military ID, my deployment orders in my carry-on, my travel authorization papers. I'm asking you to verify my credentials before this goes any further." Bowles' voice turned hard, commanding, "Take off that uniform right now. You are not authorized to wear it. Remove it immediately." Hatfield stared at him, processing the demand. Strip out of his dress uniform at an airport terminal under fluorescent terminal lights with 100 travelers watching? Remove the uniform he'd earned through blood and sacrifice? "I'm not stripping out of my dress uniform at a public airport terminal, sir. This is my uniform. I'm authorized to wear it. I'm an active duty officer." "That's a direct order. Remove the uniform or I'll remove it for you." Hatfield's voice remained controlled, but the edge was unmistakable. "Officer, what you're demanding is both unreasonable and unlawful. I'm not removing my uniform. I've shown you my credentials. I've asked you to verify my identity. You're refusing to do basic due diligence. There is a military aircraft at this gate that I need to board." Bowles reached for his radio. "Dispatch, this is Bowles at Terminal 2, Gate 42. I need backup. Suspect is belligerent, refusing lawful orders, possible stolen valor situation." Hatfield's hands were still raised, visible, non-threatening. His voice carried across the departure lounge, clear enough for every recording phone to capture. "I am not belligerent. I am not refusing lawful orders. I am a lieutenant commander in the United States Navy and I am being unlawfully detained." Bowles stepped closer, invading Hatfield's personal space. "You're impersonating a military officer. That's a federal crime under the Stolen Valor Act. You're under arrest." The irony was staggering. Bowles was accusing Hatfield of stolen valor while about to commit deprivation of rights under color of law, false imprisonment, interference with military operations, assault on a service member, multiple federal felonies that would send Bowles to prison. But Bowles couldn't see it. His bias was complete. Hatfield took a slow breath, the kind he'd learned in combat when staying calm was the difference between life and death. "Sir, I've served this country for 14 years. I've deployed to Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria. I've been wounded in combat. I've saved lives. I've earned every ribbon on this uniform. I'm not a criminal. I'm asking you one more time to verify my credentials before you make a mistake that destroys your career. Your career is over, buddy. You're going to jail."
2 more airport police officers appeared from the main corridor, lights on their radios blinking, hands ready. Officer Cora Roberts and Officer James Sharman stepped up, assessing the situation. A black man in military uniform, hands raised, calm demeanor. Their colleague, aggressive, confrontational. Roberts exchanged a look with Sharman. Something was wrong here. Roberts approached first. "Bowles, what's the situation?" "Stolen valor. Subject is impersonating a naval officer, refuses to remove the fake uniform, refuses lawful orders." Roberts looked at Hatfield, at the uniform, at the rows of medals that looked expensive, official, precisely arranged. "Sir, can you identify yourself?" Hatfield's voice was steady, professional. I'm Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, United States Navy SEALs. I showed Officer Bowles my military ID. I've asked him repeatedly to verify my credentials through Naval Base Coronado or NCIS. He's refused. This is an unlawful detention. I have a military charter departing this gate in approximately 80 minutes. Sharman stepped closer, examining the uniform carefully. The ribbons were in correct precedence order. Navy Cross at the top, something you couldn't fake without detailed military knowledge. The trident looked authentic, the weight and quality of real gold. The shoulder boards showed proper rank insignia. Bowles, did you verify his ID? It's fake. Anyone can see that. Roberts pulled out her phone. What base are you assigned to, sir? Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, SEAL Team 5. My commanding officer is Captain Rob Kraft. The duty officer this morning should be Lieutenant Height. You can call the quarterdeck. They'll confirm my identity in 2 minutes. Roberts started to dial. Bowles grabbed her wrist. We don't need to call. I'm telling you it's fake. Roberts pulled her wrist free, her expression hardening. Bowles, if there's any chance he's legitimate, we verify. That's basic procedure. He's not legitimate. He's black. Look at him. You really think he's a Navy SEAL? The words hung in the air, captured by multiple phones, recorded by airport security cameras, playing across the departure lounge. The implicit bias made explicit. Roberts and Sharman both recoiled. Hatfield closed his eyes briefly. There it was. The truth Bowles had been dancing around, finally said out loud. Sharman's voice dropped low. Bowles, what did you just say? But Bowles was committed now, too deep to back out. I'm arresting him.
Subject, turn around, hands behind your back. Hatfield made a decision. He could resist, argue, make this physical, or he could comply, document everything, and let the institution that Bowles represented deal with what came next. He turned around, placing his hands behind his back. I'm complying under protest. I am Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, active duty United States Navy SEAL. This arrest is unlawful. I've committed no crime. I've shown proper identification. I've requested verification through official channels. This is being recorded by multiple witnesses and airport security cameras. Bowles pulled out his handcuffs and snapped them on Hatfield's wrists, deliberately tight, the metal cutting into skin. Hatfield winced but said nothing. The cuffs pressed hard against his uniform jacket, wrinkling the fabric, crushing the metals into his chest. Roberts stood frozen, phone still in her hand, watching something that felt catastrophically wrong. Sharman's face showed pure horror at what his colleague was doing. Bowles walked Hatfield toward the terminal corridor, one hand gripping Hatfield's arm, the other on his duty belt. Hatfield's dress shoes clicked across the polished airport floor. His uniform, immaculate minutes ago, now wrinkled, disheveled. The ribbons sat askew. His tie had been wrenched to one side. A decorated war hero, a man who'd earned the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism, being escorted through an airport terminal like a common criminal, on the morning of his deployment to one of the most sensitive theaters in the world. The travelers at Gate 42 erupted. He's really in the military. We saw his ID. Check his credentials. Call the base. This is wrong. He didn't do anything. Officer, you're making a mistake. He showed you his ID. Bowles ignored them all. Several onlookers had already called 911. Others filmed everything. The departure lounge had become a witness stand. Roberts and Sharman stood frozen in the terminal corridor, uncertain, conflicted, watching their colleague commit a federal crime. Why do some officers see black men in uniform and assume it's fake? Comment your thoughts below. The walk to the airport police substation took 8 minutes. Hatfield moved through Terminal 2's main corridor in handcuffs, passing hundreds of morning travelers, past coffee stands and newsstands, and families on their way to ordinary lives. The partition between what he was and what this officer was treating him as had never felt wider. They arrived at the substation at 7:51 a.m. Bowles walked him through the secure door into the booking area. The
The duty sergeant on shift was Gordon Ricks, a 17-year veteran of airport security who thought he'd seen everything. He looked up from his computer as Bowles walked Hatfield in and froze. A man in Navy service dress blues, full uniform, rows of ribbons on his chest, the Navy cross visible at the top, gold trident on his lapel, hands cuffed behind his back. Ricks stood up slowly. "Bowles, what the hell did you arrest?" "Stolen valor. Subject was at gate 42 impersonating a naval officer, wearing a fake uniform, fake medals. Refused to remove the uniform when ordered. Refused lawful commands. I'm booking him for impersonating a military officer under federal statute." Ricks walked around his desk, approaching Hatfield, examining the uniform more closely. The ribbons were in perfect order, arranged according to military precedence regulations. Navy Cross, Navy and Marine Corps Medal, Purple Heart, Bronze Star with V device, Defense Meritorious Service Medal, Joint Service Commendation Medal, campaign ribbons from Iraq and Afghanistan. The uniform fit perfectly, tailored, expensive. The shoes polished to a mirror shine. The trident looked like real gold, not costume jewelry. "Sir, what's your name?" "Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, United States Navy, serial number N5129847. I showed Officer Bowles my military ID. I asked him to verify my credentials. He refused." Hatfield's voice was calm, but carried the weight of someone who'd been fighting an absurd battle for the past 20 minutes and watching a deployment window close with every passing second. Ricks held out his hand. "Can I see your ID?" Hatfield nodded toward his jacket. "Inside left pocket." Ricks carefully reached in and pulled out the common access card. He examined it under the bright station lights. Hologram intact, embedded security chip visible, Department of Defense seal embossed. Photo matched the man standing before him. The ID showed rank, Lieutenant Commander, 04, branch, United States Navy, expiration date 16 months out. Ricks turned to Bowles. "This looks real." "It's fake. Anyone can print those." Ricks had seen fake military IDs before. They were usually obviously counterfeit, printed on regular cardstock, no security features, wrong fonts. This wasn't that. This had weight, texture, multiple security layers. "Bowles, this card has an RFID chip. You cannot fake that." He walked back to his desk and picked up the phone. "What base are you out of, Commander?" "Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, SEAL Team 5. Ricks dialed the number for NAB Coronado's quarterdeck, the 24-hour duty station. It rang once. "Quarterdeck, Petty Officer Height speaking. This is a non-secure line. This is Sergeant Ricks, San Diego Airport Police. I need to verify the identity of someone claiming to be one of your personnel. Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield. He says he's assigned to SEAL Team 5. There was a pause, the sound of rapid keystrokes. "Stand by, Sergeant." The wait felt like everything, but lasted maybe 60 seconds. Height came back on the line, his voice harder, more formal. "Sergeant, I can confirm Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield is an active duty officer assigned to Naval Special Warfare Group 1, SEAL Team 5. He is on active duty orders with a charter departure this morning. What is the nature of your inquiry?" Ricks's face went white. "He's been arrested." "Arrested? For what?" "Hold on." Ricks looked at Bowles, then at Hatfield, then back at Bowles. "He's real. He's an active duty SEAL Team 5 officer on deployment orders. You arrested a Navy SEAL heading to a combat deployment." Within 4 minutes of that phone call, the situation had escalated beyond anything the San Diego Airport Authority had ever handled. Petty Officer Height immediately notified his officer of the deck. The OOD notified the command duty officer. The CDO contacted SEAL Team 5's commanding officer, Captain Rob Kraft, directly. Kraft, who had personally reviewed Hatfield's deployment orders the night before, understood immediately that something had gone catastrophically wrong. At 7:59 a.m., Kraft called the Naval Criminal Investigative Service duty officer in San Diego. "This is Captain Kraft, SEAL Team 5. One of my officers, Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield, has been arrested by San Diego Airport Police while transiting to his deployment. I need NCIS involved immediately." The NCIS agent, Special Agent Stuart Finn, pulled up Hatfield's service record as Kraft spoke. Combat deployments, Navy Cross, Purple Heart, active top secret SCI clearance, 0 disciplinary issues, active deployment orders. "Captain, what are the charges?" "Stolen valor. He was in dress blues on his way to the gate. Whatever happened, this needs federal attention now. He has a charter to make." NCIS notified Naval Special Warfare Command headquarters. NSW Command has a direct line to the Pentagon for situations involving special operations personnel. By 8:09 a.m., the duty officer at the Pentagon's Naval Operations Center was briefed. A Navy SEAL, decorated combat veteran, arrested at a domestic airport while transiting to an active Iran theater deployment under unclear circumstances. This wasn't a local matter anymore. At 8:20 a.m., Navy JAG, Judge Advocate General's Corps attorneys at Naval Base Coronado were activated. 2 senior military lawyers were en route to the airport within minutes. Pentagon public affairs officers were notified, preparing for what could become a national story. At 8:14 a.m., Captain Kraft personally called Airport Authority Police Chief Richard Becker at home. Becker, roused from early breakfast, listened as Kraft explained with barely controlled fury that one of his officers, a decorated SEAL with 14 years of exemplary service and active deployment orders, had been arrested at the departure gate for wearing his uniform. "Chief, Lieutenant Commander Hatfield holds a top-secret SCI clearance. He's been on classified deployments. He's earned the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism, and one of your officers arrested him for stolen valor at Gate 42. I have Navy JAG en route. I have NCIS involved, and I'm about to notify the Secretary of the Navy that one of my SEALs was arrested for being black in uniform while trying to board a military deployment aircraft." Becker's blood ran cold. He immediately called the substation, demanded the watch commander brief him. The watch commander pulled the booking record, saw Hatfield's name, saw the charges, saw that Sergeant Ricks had already verified Hatfield's military status and deployment orders. Becker arrived at the airport police substation at 8:28 a.m., still in his civilian clothes, his face showing the horror of someone who just understood the magnitude of what his department had done. He walked into the booking area, where Hatfield still stood, hands now uncuffed, uniform wrinkled, but dignity absolutely intact. "Commander Hatfield, I'm Chief Becker. I cannot begin to apologize for what has happened. You're being released immediately. All charges are dropped." Hatfield's voice was quiet, controlled. "Chief, your officer arrested a decorated military officer at a departure gate for wearing his uniform. He refused to verify my credentials. He demanded I strip out of my dress blues in public. He handcuffed me in front of hundreds of witnesses. I have a deployment window closing. My team is staging without me. This isn't something an apology fixes." Becker nodded, his face pale. "I understand, sir. We'll conduct a full investigation. The Pentagon is already conducting theirs. Chief, this is out of your hands now." While Hatfield stood in the booking area waiting for clearance to leave, his complete service record was being pulled up on screens from Coronado to Washington, D.C. Every deployment, every mission, every award, every evaluation was being reviewed by Navy leadership, NCIS investigators, Pentagon officials, and within hours, the U.S. Attorney's Office. The record painted a picture that made Bowles' arrest not just wrong, but obscene. Kofi Hatfield had enlisted in the Navy at 22 years old, scored high enough on the ASVAB to qualify for any rating, chose to attempt BUDS training. He'd survived Hell Week, the infamous 5.5 days of continuous evolution with fewer than 4 hours of total sleep. He'd survived the pool competency drills where instructors tried to drown you to test your calm under pressure. He'd survived the cold water, the punishment the instructors designed to break you. 80% of his class quit. Hatfield didn't quit. He graduated, earned his trident, became a Navy SEAL. First deployment came in 2010, Iraq,
Ramadi and Fallujah, clearing buildings, hunting high-value targets, combat operations that lasted months. Second deployment, Afghanistan, Helmand Province, 2012, hunting Taliban commanders in the mountains. 9 months of firefights in IED threats. Third deployment, back to Iraq in 2014, Mosul, fighting ISIS. Operations so intense the casualty rate for his platoon reached 35%. Fourth deployment, Syria, 2017, classified operations against ISIS leadership. Fifth deployment, Yemen, 2019, counter-terrorism missions the American public never heard about. Sixth deployment, back to Afghanistan, 2020, training Afghan special forces while conducting direct action missions. 6 combat deployments over 10 years as a SEAL. Most Americans serve 1 deployment in their entire career. Hatfield had 6, and now he was being recalled to the Persian Gulf theater in a 7th deployment, this time in support of operations near Iran. In 2017, during an operation outside Aleppo, Hatfield's 8-man SEAL team was ambushed while securing an exfil route. Heavy machine gun fire from 3 directions, RPGs exploding, a wall collapsing. 2 teammates were hit immediately, wounded, unable to move. Hatfield, already hit by shrapnel in his side, bleeding, his uniform soaked with blood, ran into the kill zone. He dragged the first wounded SEAL to cover, 35 yards under continuous fire, ran back into the kill zone for the second. Then a third teammate was hit. Hatfield went back again. He held a defensive position alone for 14 minutes while the team called for air support and evacuated the wounded. He fired his M4 until ammunition ran out, then used his sidearm. All 8 teammates survived. The Navy Cross citation would later describe his actions as an act of singular courage, one man against a prepared enemy force, choosing to stand rather than withdraw, buying time with his own blood. That man, that Navy Cross recipient, that 14-year combat veteran on his way to a 7th deployment in service to his country, was the man Officer Alan Bowles put in handcuffs at Gate 42, because he was black in a uniform.
The federal investigation moved with a speed that rarely characterizes government action. NCIS, the FBI, and the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of California opened parallel investigations within 48 hours. The airport security footage was preserved and subpoenaed within the first day. Phone videos from at least 14 witnesses were collected. Bowles's full service record, every complaint, every reprimand, every closed investigation was polled and reviewed. The pattern was undeniable. 11 documented complaints, every single one involving a person of color. Officers who investigated the complaints had noted the pattern in internal memos, but had never escalated it. The airport authority had never connected the incidents. The system had enabled Bowles for 7 years, complaint after complaint, each one treated as isolated, until the morning he stopped the wrong man. A federal grand jury was convened within 6 weeks. The indictment came down in week 9. Officer Alan Bowles was charged on 8 counts: deprivation of rights under color of law, false imprisonment, assault on a military service member, interference with military operations, obstruction of deployment under Title 10, civil rights violations under 18 U.S.C. 242, obstruction of justice for physically preventing Officer Roberts from verifying Hatfield's credentials, and making false official statements in the arrest report. The trial lasted 11 days. The prosecution was methodical and damning. 14 witnesses testified. The airport security footage, all 3 camera angles, was played in full for the jury. Officers Roberts and Sharman testified about what Bowles said. "He's not legitimate. He's black. Look at him. You really think he's a Navy SEAL?" Those words, spoken at a gate, captured on 4 separate phone recordings, confirmed by 2 fellow officers, destroyed whatever defense Bowles's lawyers had tried to construct. The defense argued Bowles had acted in good faith, that the anonymous tip gave him probable cause, that he was following procedure. The prosecution tore that apart piece by piece. Probable cause requires more than an anonymous call. Procedure requires verification before arrest. Bowles had refused every opportunity to verify. He had refused the CAC card. He had refused to call the base. He had physically prevented a fellow officer from making a verification call. He had made an arrest he knew, or should have known, was unlawful. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. The verdict: guilty on all 8 counts. The sentencing hearing was brief. Federal Judge Helen Bowles, no relation to the defendant, addressed the court before reading the sentence. "Officer Bowles, you did not make a mistake in the way an officer can make a mistake in a dark alley in a fast-moving situation. You stood in a bright, crowded airport terminal. You had time. You had evidence in your hand. You had colleagues urging you to verify. You had a man begging you to make one phone call. You refused all of it because of what you saw when you looked at him. What you saw was not a uniform, not a military ID, not medals for valor. What you saw was his race, and you let that see more clearly than everything else." Federal sentencing guidelines produced a range. Given the military nexus, the operational interference, the documented pattern, and the explicit racial statement made on record, the court sentenced Officer Alan Bowles to 12 years in federal prison, with no possibility of parole for the first 8. He would serve his sentence in the Federal Correctional Institution in Victorville, California, less than 40 miles from the airport where he destroyed his career. The airport authority reached a civil settlement with Lieutenant Commander Hatfield within 4 months. The terms were sealed, but the structural changes were public. Mandatory military credential verification protocols, body camera requirements for all terminal officers, and external oversight board for civilian complaint review, and the termination, not resignation, of 3 supervisors who had ignored Bowles's complaint history.
Hatfield, for his part, made his deployment. A Navy JAG attorney and a Navy-issued vehicle transported him from the substation back to the airport. The military charter, held on Pentagon instruction, waited for him. He boarded at 9:41 a.m., 127 minutes after he had first been stopped. He didn't say anything when he buckled in. His teammates, who had watched the incident unfold in real time via a teammate's phone, were waiting in silence. One of them reached over and put a hand on his shoulder. Hatfield looked out the window as San Diego dropped away below him. He thought about the anonymous call. He thought about Bowles's face. He thought about the 14 years he'd given, and the 7 deployments, and the Navy Cross, and the blood he'd spent saving lives, and how none of it had mattered for 20 minutes in a terminal corridor. He thought about his daughter's birthday. He'd missed it again. What should never have happened in the first place took 127 minutes to resolve. It took Bowles 12 years to pay for it. There is a larger story underneath all of it, one that the Bowles trial forced into the light but did not resolve. An anonymous caller looked at a decorated Navy SEAL in full dress uniform, Navy Cross on his chest, trident on his lapel, ribbons from 6 combat deployments, and saw a suspicious person. An airport police officer looked at the same man, the same uniform, the same credentials, and saw a criminal. Neither of them saw Kofi Hatfield. They saw his skin. That gap between what was actually there and what bias allowed them to see cost one man his freedom for 12 years, and it almost cost the other man the deployment that his teammates and his country were counting on him to make. Officer Alan Bowles will be eligible for release in 2031. Lieutenant Commander Kofi Hatfield returned from his 7th deployment 6 months after the trial. He was promoted to commander the following spring. The gold trident on his chest remained exactly where it had always been, earned, real, and untouchable by anyone's assumptions. If this story moved you, share it.
These stories deserve to be heard. Drop a comment below. Should airports have dedicated military liaison officers on every terminal shift to prevent incidents like this? And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. Every story we bring you is one more piece of truth held up to the light.